So what the science says, first of all, is that there isn't one size fits all for everybody. It often depends on what you can do personally. It's challenging to do this, right? You'll feel hungry for the first 2 weeks you try it. So I would suggest, the way I do it is I start by skipping one and then maybe 1.5 meals, like what you do. Try to go without a meal until 3, 4 o'clock if you can. Maybe not the first day, right? If you do that the first day, you'll say, this is crazy. I'm going to grab a snack, and you won't do it. So go slowly, build up to it. So the first day, I would say, just don't eat breakfast and maybe have a snack mid-morning. A week later, try to go without breakfast completely until lunch, and eventually work up to what you do and I do, which is eat a very late lunch, if not go to dinner. What you get with that is obviously not eating in bed, hopefully. So you've got the night fast starting, what would it be, 7 p.m. roughly? When do you finish dinner?
Oh God, no comment.
Okay.
It's usually pretty late. Last night it was, this is probably why I don't eat very early the next day. Last night would have been about, I'm going to say 10 p.m.
Okay.
It was super late. That's an extraordinary example. Usually it would be 8 or 9 p.m.
Okay, but you've got at least 13, 14 hours, which is good.
Yeah.
Try to aim for 14 hours. Some people go 16 hours, but that's a good start for fasting. And hopefully you can do that most days, 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. That's great, because that means that you're turning on your sirtuins, raising your NAD. You exercise as well, so that's also added into it. One thing that I've started doing is fasting for longer than just 14, 16 hours. I try maybe once a month to go for 3 days without eating.
Why?
Because there's a type of cellular recycling that doesn't happen within the first 16 hours. You will enter ketosis, so your body will start to change its metabolism, produce what's called ketone bodies. But the true, real, deep cleansing of old proteins and damaged proteins happens after 2.5 to 3 days. And it's called chaperone-mediated autophagy.
Autophagy.
Autophagy is the word for auto self-eating, and it really kicks in with an extended fast.
What's the evolutionary reason for that? What's going on there? Why does it take me 2.5 days for this deep clean to happen?
Because your body doesn't want to do it. It costs a lot of energy, and having to remake body parts is energy expensive. And our body tries to conserve energy as much as possible. When you're fasting, what it needs to do is to use your body as fuel. So it'll start breaking down proteins for fuel that you need. So first of all, what will happen is in the first few hours, you use glycogen from your liver. Your liver makes glucose. You'll feel a little bit hungry, but you'll eventually be fine. Then once you run out of glycogen, then you're going to start breaking down fat and making ketones. That's when you start to get a bit of bad breath from that. But you feel great. When you're in between about 15 hours and 24 hours, that's when you get a lot of ketones, and your brain uses those for fuel. So you'll have sharp mind, you can remember things, you can focus on work if you ever get there. Beyond that, you need to break down fat, and that is when your body is starting to do that. But ultimately, what happens after 3 days is your body says, hey, I'm going to start breaking down protein as well. And I wouldn't do that often because I don't want to break down a lot of protein, but your body will start to turn over old proteins preferentially. And a little bit of that's why I do it maybe once a month, has been shown, at least in animals, to be not just healthy, but life extending.
On that point of ketosis, I like being in a state of ketosis. I kind of cycle in and out of it during the year, because I get so many of the cognitive benefits. I'm more articulate on the podcast. I can think better. I feel better. I feel more focused and more attentive. Is the keto diet a healthy diet in your view? What are the benefits of it? Is it something that you think is natural, to be recommended?
Well, I don't mind being controversial, but I do speak the truth. There's not a lot of evidence that long-term the ketogenic diet is healthy. Mm-hmm. Certainly doesn't correlate or associate with longevity. Short-term, okay, it does help people lose weight, no question. But I am rather concerned for people that don't have a balanced diet with an input of plant material, which has molecules that are unique to plants and you won't find in high-processed foods or meat. the evidence, speaking as a scientist, is that the long-term ketogenic diets are not going to be longevity inducing. The evidence is more having a lean diet with a focus on plants that are not overcooked and not ultra-processed. That one is undoubtedly the healthiest if you can do it.
Do you eat meat?
I do eat meat, but not like I used to. I used to think that a meal was not a meal unless I had a piece of meat there, and then the vegetables were the decoration, and I begrudgingly eat the green stuff. I've been flipped totally. Serena, my partner, Serena Poon, is not just a nutritionist, but a longevity expert for the last 26 years. And so she came to my apartment, which is now our apartment, and she just cleared out all the food that I had. Pretty much everything was either toxic or just not healthy. It was ultra processed. She said, "What are you eating? That kind of peanut butter, full of sugar." So she's taught me how to live healthy. And so now I rarely eat meat. I rarely drink alcohol. I focus on really fresh, high quality, preferably organic foods, because I don't want pesticides and I don't want other contaminants. But I do know organic can be more expensive.
Why not meat?
So animals, unfortunately, don't make what are called polyphenols, which are a type of molecule that I believe and have evidence turns on the sirtuins and other pathways, biochemical reactions that delay aging. So sirtuins are just one of a few enzymes that control aging. We know this. There's sirtuins, there's mTOR, which responds to aminos, and another one called AMPK. So those three pathways are altered in just the right way by molecules found only in plants, well, and a small extent in fungi, but not in meat. So if you're not eating a lot of vegetables or fruits, you're not getting these molecules. They're like medicine as food. So right here, I hope you don't mind me mentioning that there are some food in front of us. And I'm looking at blueberries here. Blueberries are packed with polyphenols. It's one of the reasons they have purple color is that polyphenols have the color. And as Serena would tell you, eat the rainbow. I call it xenohermesis, which is not as attractive. But xenohermesis is the same idea as eat the rainbow, that by eating plants that have a lot of these molecules that are often produced by stressed plants,
When
you
you
get the
say
benefits.
stress plants.
So plants will be stressed just like we are. If you don't give them enough water, food, too much sunlight, not enough sunlight, in their defense, they make polyphenols. There's a whole bunch of them: resveratrol, fisetin, quercetin. There's hundreds. This one has anthocyanidins. That's the color. These activate these adversity responses in our cells. The sirtuins will get activated by molecules in this blueberry.
So if I eat this blueberry, those conductors that conduct some of the aging process you talked about, making sure my cells don't have an identity crisis, fixing the negative stress that's going on in my cells, they will be benefited by me eating this blueberry?
Yeah, it's like a free hack, right? You can eat something that's yummy, but you're also getting the benefits by mimicking fasting and exercise in your food as well. The sirtuins don't just need NAD. That's the gas pedal. That's the petrol for those of you in the British world and Commonwealth. The fuel for sirtuins is NAD. The accelerator pedal are the polyphenols in fruits and vegetables like resveratrol, quercetin, which we know when you give them to sirtuins, they get hyperactivated.
And when you say eat the rainbow, you mean eat colorful looking food?
Because that's an easy way to remember how to eat foods that have the most polyphenols. I'll give you a really good example, Stephen. Serena put me onto green tea matcha, right? So matcha tea, if you haven't tried it, I'm sure you've tried it, but those of you who haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It tastes great. The reason for it, switching from coffee mainly to matcha in the morning for me, is that it's full of polyphenols. Why is it full of polyphenols? It's not just because it's green tea, which is not naturally healthy, but the growers of those plants in Japan, typically, they shade the plants before they harvest. Shading the plants stresses them out. Plants need light. So they don't just make more chlorophyll, which produces the deep green color in the tea, but the polyphenols are super high. And through trial and error over thousands of years, the Japanese figured out that by shading the plants, giving them this mild hormetic stress, it makes them not just extra tasty, but extra healthy. Same with red wine, by the way, but the alcohol can be an issue. But absent alcohol, red wine is very good for you.
Okay, without the alcohol.
It's unfortunate. You know, one of my papers in 1996 caused red wine sales to go up 30% and stayed up. I apologized for saying that red wine every day was healthy. Doctors were recommending it, remember?
Yeah.
But I now changed my mind. I have to say that I no longer believe having one glass of red wine every day is healthy, in my opinion. And I've stopped drinking red wine every day. Instead, I take polyphenols from red wine and from vegetables, either in a pill or in my food as a substitute, because the evidence for alcohol is rather damning. There's a UK biobank study, and the UK looked at thousands of people's MRI scan of their brain who were drinking one glass of alcohol a day. And there was a statistical difference between the people that were drinking one glass a day and were not, in terms of brain size and grey matter. Of course, the grey matter tended to be smaller in those that drank, even slightly.
Yeah, I do. I actually have a matcha company. It was this year voted the fastest growing company in the UK. It's by some founders that I invested in, Levi, Teddy, and Marissa from Dragon's Den, and it's been an absolute unbelievable business. Unbelievable.
So tell us, where do I get it?
Japan. You get the matcha from Japan, but the company's called Perfecto. People know about it because I've talked about it before. But I didn't realize when I made the investment that matcha was considered by many to also be very healthy, especially a health alternative to certain energy products on the market that you get in cans that give you. I shan't get sued. But the other thing that other company I invested in is this one here called Ketone IQ. I'm a co-owner of this company as well, and.
Yeah, I love that company, and the CEO, Michael, good guy.
What's your thoughts on exogenous ketones, like drinking ketones?
I do it. In fact, I drink Ketone IQ before I do a podcast.
Why?
It improves my clarity, I find. I also believe the science, and there have been multiple studies now in people. In some of the science comes out of Ketone IQ, but also independent studies have shown that it's extremely healthy for the heart. And there's new studies that show for the brain as well, it can be healthy. The brain uses ketones like beta-hydroxybutyrate, or in that one, it's 1,3-butanediol. Just a shot of that will give the brain food that it needs rather than the body having to make it. And you get, I believe, and I feel it, I get the clarity of fasting without being in a fasted state. But I also drink it when I'm fasting to give the body the extra boost that it needs.
Mm. And on this point of diet, one of the things that I was told by my doctor when I did one of those blood tests was he cautioned me about bad cholesterol. He said to me something along the lines that I need to be careful about the bad cholesterol. And there's been lots of conversation about cholesterol, good, bad. What's your perspective on this conversation around bad cholesterol, which has been thought to increase, certain foods have been thought to increase bad cholesterol, which is very, very detrimental to our health?
I didn't realize there was a debate. At least in my world, there is no debate. If you're referring to, do you want to get your LDL cholesterol as low as possible?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's...
Yeah, I mean, the science is irrefutable. There's thousands of people in studies. Now, I think I know what you're talking about. There are some stories that you need cholesterol in your brain, and if you inhibit it, you might affect your brain function. You also need it for repair of arteries. But there's no evidence that that's a problem. In fact, it's a little known fact that the brain doesn't use the cholesterol from the bloodstream. It makes its own. So I've actually been on a statin to lower my LDL since I was 30.
Really?
Well, I had high cholesterol. It's in my family. But I went to my doctor and I said, I want to go on these new drugs at the time, statins. And he said, why? You don't have heart disease yet. And I said, why would I wait? Get me on it. I want to be on it. And in those days, it was very weird to give someone a statin at age 30 with no evidence of heart disease. But as you know, I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't wait till we get diseases to treat them. We should preempt that and start early in life. And so, yeah, I insisted with my doctor initially with statins, but on all of these things, I go in and I say, I need you to prescribe me this test, I need this medicine. And eventually, after talking it over with him, he typically prescribes me something or gets me a test. But I've been fighting the system. And my doctor's at Harvard, so he's a good doctor, but conservative. The old way of doing medicine is, if you're not sick, we're not going to give you a medicine. Certainly not if you're young and healthy. But that has to change.
So you're saying that I should be on statins, potentially?
Well, what's your LDL level?
I don't think it's great. I think I ate too much bacon or something.
Well, we can talk about food and cholesterol because it depends whether you absorb stilbestrol or not. We can test for that. But if you do absorb cholesterol more than most, I would say that you may want to change your diet at a minimum.
On this plate here in front of us, I have the top 5 foods that I believe you think are great for reversing aging. Am I correct? Does that?
These are great choices, yeah.
So what are these and why? So we've already done the blueberries and you've explained to me about polyphenols and they're rich in them, which I understand, and they're low in sugar, right?
Well, they're not low in sugar, so don't eat a ton of them. A handful is fine as a snack. It's also known that having too much sugar is bad for longevity.
Okay.
So keep your blood sugar levels steady and low as much as you can. So don't eat too many of those. A better choice than blueberries would be something like matcha, which is not full of sugar. In fact, if you go to some of these chains that sell matcha and it tastes really sweet, you're going to reverse the effects of any polyphenols by drinking that much sugar. So I always have unsweetened matcha. Okay, so now we've got avocados here.
Yep.
Avocados, they're not so much known for their polyphenols, though they do have them. It's the type of fats, the polyunsaturated fats. They help with satiety, so you're not going to be as hungry. So if you put that on your sandwich at lunch, you're not going to feel peckish. And they're highly anti-inflammatory as well. The molecules are in there and the fats are very good for you.
Extra virgin olive oil?
Oh, yeah. Excellent. So the type of oils that are in there are very healthy. There's omega-9, which is also known to activate sirtuins. And again, if you have the right grower, and this has been cold pressed, not too processed, and stressed before harvesting, you'll have huge amounts of polyphenols as well.
I really hope that this is what the team said it was. This has happened before where I tried something and I thought it was something else, but it was basically it was a white powder and it was labeled with something for
what
a
could it
visual.
be? Yeah, yellow
urine.
Yellow liquid.
It could be urine or something. Urine. It's urine. No, I'm joking. It's not.
I don't think drinking urine is longevity. But yeah, on and off, I do take a teaspoon of olive oil in the morning and mix it with resveratrol, polyphenol.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, so extra virgin olive oil. Good.
Yeah. And there's a lot of evidence, not just molecular like me, but epidemiologically, people that have a lot of olive oil in their diet tend to have low inflammation and less disease.
And we've got some nuts.
Yep, nuts are good for many reasons. They're full of vitamins and minerals. If there's a Brazil nut, you want to have one of those every day for the selenium, which is a very rare element in our food supply. And there's a recent study just last month showing that a lack of selenium can be very deleterious. So nuts are great as a snack. Be careful, they're full of calories though. So if you're trying to lose weight and you're not exercising a lot, don't overeat on the nuts. And my least favorite food, but nevertheless, I will eat them. This is a Brussels sprout. When I was a kid, Brussels sprouts tasted a lot worse, a lot bitter.
True.
Those are good because they have polyphenols, but there's also another molecule in them called sulforaphane. It's actually the reason they taste terrible and smell terrible. Sulforaphane is what it sounds. It has a sulfur atom in it, and that gives it that rotten egg smell. But sulforaphane activates these hormesis pathways. There's one called NRF, and that is a stress response protein that sulforaphane activates. So you actually, by eating preferably relatively steamed, not fried to death Brussels sprouts, you'll get sulforaphane. You can also take sulforaphane as a supplement if you don't like